call the Board of Education meeting for Monday, October 28th to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Consent agenda. We have two items: approval of the minutes of the September 23rd, 2024 board meeting, as well as the statement of receipts and expenditures for September of 2024. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes. Next, superintendent's report.
Yes, so this is the final week of our first quarter. So we had one of our nights of parent-teacher conferences started last week, and then the rest are this week. And then we have no school on Friday for conferences in the morning and also grading and planning for teachers in the afternoon. We hosted the National Redefining Ready Summit on October 14th through 16th, which we believe is the first time that our district has hosted a national conference showcasing the work that our students and staff are doing. We had a ton of people that were engaged over the 3 days of talking about helping our students be college, career, and life ready. So we want to thank the following people that were involved in presentations throughout the 3 days: Topher Adams, Tony Alfonsi, Maria Arthur, Rachel Baronic, Betsy Bergman, Mike Bergman, Alyssa Bloom, Lindsay Warner, Michelle Chomp, Mandy D'Amico, Brian Durst, Susan Easter, Craig Gunderson, Jenny Gunderson, Fran Grant, Greg Johnson, Mike Kalina, Julia Leeson, Amanda Mack, Scott Manti, Jenny Marks, Emily May, Kayla Meyer, Kevin Moore, Robin Morgan, Steve Nada, Jeff Nelson, Jake Ripatella, Jessica Rosengren, Elizabeth Sand, Aaron Schwantes, Jill Schwenson, Rick Seibold, Carrie Slominski, Chris Weiss, Natalie Witt, and Kim Junker, and some of them led multiple presentations during that time. And some of the sessions that we had, so it was wide-ranging sessions from, we think of redefining ready, and as students leave, are they college, career, or life ready? Well, that isn't just happening when they get to high school. So we had opportunities for people to hear things at the elementary level, whether it's the impact of Great Start conferences and PD 45 on elementary student achievement, which we would talk about being college and life ready developers, implementing redefining ready principles, develop effective data protocols for a high school, which is college, career, and life ready, preparing students with disabilities for college, career, and life readiness, college, career, and life ready, enhancing academic success and post-secondary awareness through middle school programs, college and career ready, and empowering young readers, third grade literacy focus for college ready. So the first day was the summit, and we had a ton of districts from our area as well as across the nation come to that. So the morning was focused on these more academic areas, and then in the afternoon and also for the next 2 days, we had other sessions that would revolve around things that maybe wouldn't be attached to a score, wouldn't be attached to an ACT or an SAT score, helping students, whether it's through youth apprenticeship, whether it's through internship class, building community partnerships. Elizabeth Mueller is here tonight. She came and spoke on behalf of the chamber and the work that we do together, whether it's with field trips, whether it's just helping students be exposed to various careers. And you can see even leading down to our learning-based compensation system, how we use professional development, compensation of staff. And it's interesting when you have people from all over the country. There's 12 different states represented. Everyone has different relationships with their union. Everyone has different relationships with the school board, with the state. Texas, every district writes their own curriculum. So it's just really interesting hearing people from various parts of the country who deal with similar challenges but different challenges and how they overcome that. And then also some of these other pieces every 15 minutes, something that we did last year, that big community showcase with a lot of our partners that help us put that together for our students and staff, as well as then going over to Capco with our youth apprenticeship student panel and our community partners in the Hawks program. In the afternoon on that first day, Mr. Manti had set up tours for people to be able to go around to our various CTE areas. And so they were able to be in our technology and engineering areas, our business and instructional technology, Project Lead the Way, and family and consumer science, being able to hear from teachers, being able to hear from students about the things that students are learning and opportunities that they have. You can see the students that were also engaged. This was a day that we didn't have school. So appreciative of these students who are in: Riley Bergman, Evan Buckman, Elizabeth Coleman, Kendall Conrad, Josie Gasser, Abigail Gibson, Hunter Gurok, Tom V. Hardis, Josie Knepp, Kaylee Ritz, Abby Russell, Gabe Salco, Sophie Schumacher, and our advanced foods classes who made lunch for everyone on that Tuesday. And then we also had two of our former graduates come back, Emma Wagner and Summer Schmidt-Winger, who had been in the Project Lead the Way curriculum and through the program, and now are in the medical field, come and talk about their experiences through Project Lead the Way, how it helped them be college, career, and life ready to the experiences they had here. And then we also had our community partners. We had 5 of our community partners that came and presented with Serona Recovery, Ozaukee County Youth Apprenticeship, Chamber of Commerce, and then Executive Director of Human Resources through CAPCO. I mentioned the states that we had in attendance. We had districts that were from these 12 various states that came and were partaking in the conference and then sharing some of their experiences with us, and we were learning from them as well. Gabe Salco, who's one of our seniors, this year for the first time we have a digital media intern for the district, and he's taking pictures and doing various things for us to help us with our social media presence, something he's interested in doing for the future. And so he put together a video for us, about a 2-minute video of some pictures and a video that's part of it that I'll show. And hopefully we have sound by the time we get to the speaker. So I'll use some of my comments while they're fixing the sound. One of my comments is about our technology team and the great job that they did during that time, and our maintenance team as well, because we were using the upper part of the auditorium, because we had, I think, 70 people there, and 70 people is a lot until you get 70 people in our auditorium, which was one of the unique things too, is some of these districts are anywhere from 4,000 to Mansfield is big. Any help from the team?
Just make up a number. I
Sure, 50 grand, 50,000, it's 50,000, something like that, it's a lot.
That's
Yes,
a lot.
yeah, there we go, that's a lot. In that vicinity, thanks, everyone. But so what they were talking about, when they went to our auditorium, they were like, oh my gosh, your auditorium is huge for your school size. And I said, well, yeah, we have like we can have a school assemblies, we can have high school assemblies where the whole school can come in, so we have a Veterans Day assembly. And they were just amazed at the idea of like you can get all of your students in one spot to hear Veterans Day when you use the upper and lower. And so, they have other opportunities being bigger, but they have other challenges of trying to have, if you have a couple thousand people in each grade level, how do you have an auditorium that can seat that many when you aren't going to use it that often? And even the comments they made about our tech ed spaces and our CTE spaces, they're like, for the size of your district, your spaces are amazing. And I was like, well, yeah, in the last referendum that we had, that was what the community supported, and was able to help our students really see the benefit of that and the opportunities that they have with that. So there's some positives of people from bigger districts being like, wow, that's some really great opportunities that you have with the size that you have, but the facilities that your community has supported for you to have. And then in our custodial team, just with cleaning everything and keeping everything looking great as we have school throughout. We'd used this area here. The high school gave up this area during our Tuesday. So we had school in session, so we moved study hall out of here. But even, before these were offices and those turning into labs, we're able to, if someone had to take a call, they could go in there. Scott and his team had worked it out so that students wouldn't be in there. They could go in there and take a call if they needed to have a business call that they needed to make. So things that we haven't had in the future that through the remodel allowed us to be able to do that. And then I would say that specifically, everyone, I think everyone on our team just did a great job. You can see the number of people that we had that were engaged in this whole thing. But I would say I'd give a special shout out to 3 people. Julia Leeson, who started July 1st, and sort of when we'd agreed to take this on, Michael had been here for 3 years. had been in the Redefining Ready. We'd been on site visits before, I knew what that looked like. Julie had never been on a Redefining Ready site visit even, and so to come in, keep our communication with AASA, help us stay focused with that, I really appreciate that. Kara obviously keeps us engaged and helps me be focused on various pieces that we had. And there, it was really the high school had a ton of different things going on. So they had, Scott had either worked with staff to present, or he presented himself 8 different times. Plus, he organized the tours over that day that we had the tours. So a big shout out to Scott and the work that he did as well. So with the 3 of them, our whole team, I think, did a great job across the district, whether it's you're going from a 3rd grade teacher to an instructional coach to high school to middle school to students that were from the middle school coming back to help talk about that. It was really a great opportunity for us to showcase across our district. And I think we're good now. Or we won't be. We'll just fast forward the video. You'll get an idea of the pictures of what we had. He's saying, I can't believe how good Steve Nada's presentation was. I heard him say that. Our foods class, students serving in here, in this area here, which is great to see. Wendy Wagner, who's our new foods teacher, like nothing like being here a couple months, and then you're serving lunch for 100+ people. They did a great job. And this is us over at Capco, their human performance for improvement. So thanks to Gabe for putting that together and capturing a lot of those pieces. We'll be sharing some of this stuff on social media as well now that we present it to the board. And Kara, if you can advance me, that'd be great.
We forgive you. As long as you're doing that, I was able to come Monday and Tuesday morning, so I sat in on a number of the sessions those mornings. It was very educational for me, and like Jeff said, thanks to administration, all the teachers, Rick and the technology team, as he said, there was a lot to do to go into that and prepare for that. I was here, it went off without a hitch from what I saw, everything was working well. But yeah, it was a lot of work. So thanks to everybody that was involved and the presenters, as Jeff said, there were a number of them, and the students that came back, or the middle schoolers that came up, the high schoolers and students that came back. It was great to showcase, quite honestly, from what I saw, our district. But as Jeff said, it was also an opportunity for everybody to learn. And in a number of sessions I sat in, our people were asking, tell us, or I have a question, help me. Not that we have all the answers, but we're doing some good things as they saw, but we also needed some help on certain things. So it was great to see that collaboration. It wasn't just us presenting, but also some feedback generated. So yeah, I sat in on the middle school, the high school, the special ed, and hearing what's going on with like Jake and the transition coordinator role and how important that is for the special ed kids. That was great to see. One of the other things that stuck out to me as I sat into the sessions was the strategic plan and Vision 2030, driving so many things going on here. I heard so many people talk about it, so the board can be happy about that is really resonating with everybody in the district. I mean, everybody was talking about that, from ACT scores and all the data that the technology team provides to our staff to dig into test results. And what are those subject areas? What are those content areas that need help, whatever? It was great to see all of that come to fruition and to share it with others. So yeah, it was very, very good to see and very proud to be there for that and see all the good work that we're doing.
Yep, and you can see two of the quotes from the national co-leads of Redefining Ready from Marshfield and from Elma. And I have in my notes too to thank Steve for taking time to come present on Vision 2030. A number of you came and were able to be part of that session as well. And then Mark was there for that Monday and Tuesday, and I had a couple of superintendents come and talk to me about great to see the support of the school board. So they're also seeing that, and that the school board's engaged with the district. Vision 2030 did drive a lot of our discussions that we had, and it gives you sort of an overview. Then we were able to have dinner one evening and as a group that Tuesday night, and the group that we had there. So some great opportunities for us to connect with other districts across the state, as well as across the nation, and make connections and hopefully help us learn as well.
Jim, just last
Yep.
comment before you go, I mean, and obviously I shared with the board, you know, we received an email from one of the superintendents from a neighboring state, and, you know, just echoed, you know, everything that was done here, how it was done, the takeaways that he got, and, you know, just the overall performance and the things that we're doing here. So it was great to see someone who indicated that they've never emailed the school board president before after one of these events, just to make that comment, to make sure that got shared. So, echoing everything that Mark said, thank you for all the work with that. And I know as we attend those events, we get nuggets and pieces that we come back and we implement here. And it was great that people view our district as a place that they can come, you know, get those types of things and go back and at the end of the day make a better learning education for, you know, wherever they're at. So thank you.
Yep, great, thank you. Red Ribbon Week is this week, so we are celebrating that across the district. The secondary levels, we're focusing on raising awareness about the dangers of drug and alcohol use. The elementary schools are focusing on positive choices, so I'm wearing red today. But across the district, there'll be different dress down days and some different activities that they'll have that are age appropriate. And then also on November 12th, in partnership with Mel's Charities, we're hosting Chris Herron at the high school. Chris is a former professional basketball player who became addicted to drugs and who's been dramatically affected by that. And so he shares his story of recovery and hope. We had him a couple of years ago coming back into Ozaukee County again through Mel's Charities. So great opportunity for our students to hear from that. And then our construction update. So Michelle is here from Huffman Keel, and while she's coming to the mic, I'll update the board and the community on the listening session that Chris Weiss and I had last week at John Long. We had approximately 80 people that came with our current fourth grade, incoming fifth grade families that came. Chris presented for about 35 minutes, and then we took questions for about 25 minutes, and then we had some stay afterwards. Rachel Baronic took some people on a tour of the building. Some people hadn't been in John Long before. Some stayed after and asked some questions, but great, great showing that night of people having questions and then getting some questions answered. There'll be some more information that we'll share as we move forward. We'll have a QR code that we'd used previously to get questions from them. They'll be sending out again to get new questions as we prepare for moving into next school year. And the construction that's starting to take shape in a visible way today. I'll turn it over to Michelle.
Yeah, exciting report today. Thanks, everyone. If you want to move to the next slide. Or are you, can I have control? Go back one. Just briefly talk about the agenda. Quick project update. Got some visuals to show finally. Budget summary, and then the schedule overview. So project update, we released our bid package number 1. We officially started construction today, mobilized on site. Bid package 1 was footings and foundation. That consists of the 8 categories you see: asphalt, paving, concrete, landscaping, site utilities, casting place concrete, structural steel, rooftop unit, earthwork. That consists of basically 20% of the entire project cost. So not insignificant. We were very pleased at the number of subcontractors that turned out and wanted a piece at this project. We had very good participation, and we came in under budget, which is always a plus when we're starting out. We do have our second bid package, which was released on last Monday, and we hope to get those bids back early November. So we are hoping to get that low bid, stay under that budget. However, we know that's not always the case in past referendums. So we will continue to be optimistic and push our, the numbers that come back, and hopefully we get another really good turnout from all bidders that come through. But we anticipate to make those awards sometime in early December. We'll have a special meeting like we did this first round with the board and let you know our recommendations. We had an amazing groundbreaking ceremony on the 21st. Our permits we received last week, and we officially mobilized today. So there's officially fencing, job site trailer, and fun activities starting to ensue. Here's some photos of the groundbreaking ceremony. We got some of the 4th grade class members involved, which was super fun. Dirt went flying everywhere. So yeah, it was really great that, the district got the folks involved. And then here is just some pictures of the fencing. The calm before the storm. Just kidding. And then here's just a snapshot of our budget summary. And just a thing to point out is we've already completed some construction. Jamie took care of some bathroom renovations this summer, and we're now completing all those invoicing. So the 156 that you see on the invoice to date, that's what that number reflects. So we are already in full swing in the renovation on the interior. We will continue to do the interior renovation next summer. And then, let's see, schedule. The schedule has not changed since the very first time we proposed it to you. So that is really good. We are staying right on track. We hope to continue to remain right on track. So there's been no surprises to date, knock on wood. Does anyone have any questions?
I noticed that there was maybe it was at the meeting for John Long, but just the concern about construction traffic during the daytime with school operations and that being noted to the vendors and contractors well?
Yeah, so I guess I could point it out here. We're gonna have deliveries down here on the main road, and then all construction traffic will take place outside of whenever teachers are in and out.
Right.
So,
Just making sure that the vendors are aware of that.
yes, yep, we've been doing a very good job communicating that to our project superintendent, who then filters the information out, and we'll be doing weekly meetings with the contractor.
Great.
It's a very good team. I feel like a very good partnership is ensuing, so I think we're going to be in really good hands.
Good, thank you.
So, yep.
That was a point of emphasis at our first meeting was,
Yep.
and he'd ask Chris about like when does John Long people come in? When do interview? When do they start? And he'd even said that he'd be out there in the morning just getting an idea, but having the deliveries come off of Hickory and controlling the construction people coming in there was a part that he asked. So they were going to be pretty tight about that.
Thank you.
Yep, welcome.
Thank you.
And then last but not least, I took a phone call from Elizabeth Mueller, who's our executive director of the Grafton Chamber of Commerce, and who was also involved last week with us, and saw her up there. And she has a surprise announcement to make. So Elizabeth.
I do. I know a lot of you just think that we just got done, or I guess we're not even done with Halloween. I guess Saturday we kind of did. But the Chamber's already full force working on Christmas. And so I am here today. We are announcing our outstanding citizen here tonight, a lifelong Grafton resident who has given back to the community he grew up in many ways. He has given back through athletics, the school district, village involvement, and community organizations. So I am so pleased to announce that Steve Nada is actually our outstanding citizen of 2024. So he has coached for the Grafton Little League. He's coached girls and boys basketball at GHS for 15 years. And more recently, he coached 5th and 6th grade basketball at St. Paul's Lutheran Church. Steve is dedicated to the youth and community, where he has continued when he was elected in the Grafton School Board in 2017. And currently, you're in your 8th year, is that correct?
Yes.
That is correct. So you can thank the gentleman to your right for the nomination. But I just want to say thank you for all you do. I'll hand you the letter as well. That was very nicely written, and I could be up here for hours because it is amazing. And then your information is in the bag, and we will see you in the parade. I know you're kind of busy that morning with breakfast, but we'll get you there. I promise. So, congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. I guess I don't know what to say. It's an honor. So, thank you.
Well deserved.
Thank you. All right, a little bit off guard here. All right. Anything else that you have, Mr. Nelson? Does that conclude? Any other surprises? Okay.
Nope, that was the call that I took. Congratulations.
Thank you. All right, so we're at the point of public comment. I received, I believe, 4 emails over the course of the last couple of weeks that I've forwarded on to the entire board, so you all have that. So if there is anyone that would like to speak from the audience, we'll adhere to a 3-minute open comment session. If anyone would like to come up, please come up, state your name and address, and the board is happy to hear. Thank
I
you.
see some very familiar faces in this room. My name is Terry Vincevinius. I live at 1129 8th Avenue here in Grafton. And I have 3 children here in the Grafton School District, 2 at John Long Middle School and 1 at Woodview. My experiences here with teachers and staff have always been super positive, and I have a deep appreciation for teachers and paraprofessionals. Growing up, my aunt was a teacher for Head Start in Milwaukee in some of the worst neighborhoods, and I've heard horrible and heartbreaking stories, but I've also heard stories of triumph and awesome things that can happen when a teacher helps a student. And some of you, a lot of you might know my 7th grade daughter. Her name is Annie Vincevinius. She's a 7th grader, and if you know Annie, then you know that she's pretty awesome. She's on the autism spectrum, but she's super social and she's very high functioning. And if she were here right now, she would introduce herself to every single one of you. By the end of this meeting, she would know your spouses, your children, your pets, and she could run into you in public and she would rattle it off. And people are shocked that she can do this, but she's one of the most kind and beautiful souls that I know. The last 2 years, Annie has had the opportunity to work with a fantastic teacher at John Long Middle School named Madeline Cease. Over this past year, there was a student that had entered the middle school that had some issues with violent tendencies, and a couple parents have been concerned about this issue, and we have emailed the principal, the school board, and I'm here today on behalf of my daughter and actually on behalf of the teachers and the paraprofessionals here in the Grafton School District. I asked multiple times about a possible safety plan when it came to this, and I was simply told that students were just asked to leave the room. And in my humble opinion, when you're working with a group of special education students, especially when some of them are incoming in wheelchairs, that's not always the best solution to deal with things. Annie has been very, very stressed out. She has bitten her nails, which is not something that she has done since my dad was actively dying of cancer when she was in preschool. And she notices when people get hurt, and she notices when they're not in school. Unfortunately, my husband and I sometimes get the brunt of this at home. And my question today to the administration and to the school board is just, if you know something is an issue, I'm not sure why we don't do something about it before things can escalate. I'd spent a lot of time these last few weeks going back and forth on the phone with different administrators and principals, literally just trying to keep my daughter safe. That's all I care about. And I'm sure many of you are parents, and you can understand where I'm coming from. I do not want my child in a situation where she could get hurt. And unfortunately, that did happen to a student in the middle school. They got hurt, and parents have been going back and forth for a couple weeks on our concerns, and I feel like some of them were somewhat dismissed. I was told multiple times that all children have the right to a free and public education, But my question is what happens when their free and public education affects the mental health and the safety of my child? And I would like to know too, if some of you are parents, if you're willing to put your child in a situation like that where they could potentially be harmed, and what you would do if you were in my shoes. Because Annie is very verbal and she can tell me what she's feeling and what's going on. I've had some great conversations this week with Principal Weiss, and he's been fantastic. Jeff Nelson and I have had some awesome conversations as well. And literally, I just want my daughter to be safe. I've also had conversations this past week with Amanda Mack, and unfortunately, those did not go as well as my conversations with Superintendent Nelson and with Principal Weiss. I was accused of making assumptions about things that I don't know anything about. I was gaslit, and I really do not appreciate that when my literal only concern is for the safety of my daughter. I was also told that perhaps the teacher that my daughter works with needs more education. In all due respect, that's insulting to me as a parent when you have a teacher who has 20 plus years of education in a special education environment telling me that you think your teacher needs more training. I think that's incredibly unprofessional. Which brings me to my next point. A lot of people choose to be teachers. A lot of people choose to be paraprofessionals. And my other question is, how many injuries have to happen until something is done about a student that could potentially hurt not only your staff and your paras, but other students as well? And I also checked the DPI website, and it seems like things are either getting underreported or they're reported and they go missing. So I'm not sure if I'm missing something or somebody might be able to explain that better to me. So I'm here for my daughter, and I'm here for the staff members that spend 8+ days or 8+ hours a week in the classroom with their teachers. And it's really hard not to like some of the teachers and paraprofessionals you guys have. And it's because of awesome teachers and therapists like Diane Vispraskis, Molly McCabe, Jenna Gunderson, Brenna Casey, Jennifer Andrews, Margot Collins, Nate Paps, Jenny Calloway, Shannon Sadelmeyer, Eric Jackson, and Katie Lang-Henrik, Cassie Kramer, and so many other people. They're just fantastic people, and I think the Grafton School District should do everything that they can to hold on to their staff and paraprofessionals that do so much for our children in this district. So I'm just questioning if Grafton really wants to risk losing some of these people when there's not specific protocol in place, or if this is literally just a money issue. So I want to thank you all for listening to me, and I want to reiterate that this is not about teachers, this is not about paraprofessionals, this is literally just about the safety of my daughter and us trying to do better, because in Grafton, all students every day should mean all students every day. And I appreciate you all for listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we will proceed to item number C. Informational items from the October 21st Finance Committee meeting. First one would be school district boundaries.
Yep, we had discussed in finance the boundaries as it relates to Hawks Ridge subdivision. The Finance Committee reviewed a potential change to the boundaries that would eliminate lots that are straddling between our school district and Cedarburg's district. A resolution for detachment and attachment would be written and presented to both our board and Cedarburg's board for approval sometime before March 1st of next year, which would allow the changes to take effect by July 1st. Do you want to go to that one and then, or do you want me to also summarize?
See if there's any questions on that first one.
No questions? Informational only at this point.
We also discussed the transportation guidelines as it relates to fifth graders moving to John Long for 25-26 school year. Options for leaving the guidelines as they are now or adjusting them were reviewed. The Finance Committee does not plan on recommending any changes to the current guidelines, which based on current guidelines, fifth graders living over 1 mile from John Long will be eligible for transportation.
So just for clarification then, so as we make this transition, nothing changes for a fifth grade student, correct?
Correct. Other than going to John Long Middle School, but their transportation guidelines are still eligible for busing if they're over a mile away from their school.
And then would this be the exact same for current state for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, correct?
So 6th, 7th, 8th grade stays the same. They are eligible if they're over 2 miles from John Long Middle School. That would stay the same as well.
Okay. So there's actually no changes, what probably makes it a little bit more odd is that you'd have 5th grade and 6th through 7th, 8th in the same building at this point. So you could have a 5th grader and an 8th grader, one can, one can't, but that 8th grader would be able to purchase a seat, correct?
Yes.
As they do today. Okay, any additional? Thank you for the clarification. Those were our informational items. Item D, recommendations for the board action from the same meeting. We have 2 items for that.
Yes, so we had Dan Mongovan, who attended our Finance Committee meeting both in September and October, to present information regarding our first renewal as partially self-insured. So he took us through looking at 3 years of our experience in terms of claim activity and basically worked down through these pieces of information to come up with a projection of the 2025 per employee per month estimated claims at $1,500. That then is annualized up here in that top cell for per employee per year, estimate of what claims would be. Then a per person amount for administering the plan with a TPA, purchasing the stop-loss insurance, transplant insurance, gene therapy insurance, to come up with projected per employee per year costs of that $24,000 for 2025. Came out to be about a 10% increase from the prior year. So we would need to increase our funding sources by 10%. So what that would mean is our 2025 over 2024 contribution into the high deductible health plan would grow by $2,245 for the family plan, $991 for the single. We contribute the same dollar amount whether you select the high deductible plan or the PPO plan. So that increase is the same, the contribution is the same, with the exception of the wellness incentive. If you qualify for wellness, then you get an additional $2,500 for family, $1,250 for single toward the premium. On the high deductible health plan, that amount is put into an HSA as an additional HSA contribution. So when we look at that overall total contribution going up by 10%, and then the employer contribution for the high deductible health plan increasing 10%, you're left with what the employee contribution would be for 2025. When you look at the change from 2025 to from 2024, you can see that amount of the increase annually, as well as the monthly change and the per paycheck change for those employees. We'll have open enrollment in November for signing up beginning January 1st, 2025, if anyone wants to make changes to their benefit selection. Obviously, a lot of information was included in the packet, along with those 2 Finance Committee meetings with Dan presenting quite a bit of information. We are looking for a motion to approve tonight, but I'll open it up to any questions the board might have.
Any questions? Okay, so we just received the presentation on this at the Finance Committee meeting. So with that, I would look for a motion to approve the insurance renewals and employee contribution amounts starting January 1st, 2025.
Is that the end of your sentence?
Recommendation.
All right, second?
Yeah. So the recommendation has it starting January 1st, 2024?
25, sorry.
Okay, all right. Yes. So 2025. You threw me off. Do we have a motion for that recommendation starting January 1st, 2025?
Second.
Any additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And that passes. So thank you very much. Item D, point 2, 2024-25 final budget and levy certification.
Yeah, so this is something we began work back in February when we looked at revenue projections based on the current biennial budget, projection of resident enrollment moving forward. Then we moved into the March, April period where we looked at needs from a staffing perspective with increase in enrollment. Then we finalized other expenditures as we hit May, where we had a finance committee meeting and 2 board meetings to review our budget and approve a preliminary budget in June to use starting July 1. And then as we moved into September, we had the annual meeting where we presented this information to the electorate, had a board budget hearing for the board to approve the budget, and had the levy approved by the electorate. And finally, this month, we had final budget information come out from the state that we reviewed extensively at the last Finance Committee meeting just 1 week ago. And now tonight, we reached the finish line for finally approving the final budget and certifying the tax levy. So I'll start off with our revenues. You can see a second year in a row, our Fund 10 revenue increases, primarily due to increased enrollment, as well as an increased allowable spending per resident enrollment. After, you can see, after a couple of years where that per member amount was frozen in terms of what we're allowed to raise. So 2 years now of seeing increased revenue. In addition, if we look at our special education funding, we have state special ed aids and some federal funding that help pay for special education costs. Obviously, what that does leave is a significant, in the form of a $3.4 million transfer from Fund 10 to cover what is not covered by state special ed aid. That's estimated to be probably about 32% this year of last year's expenses being reimbursed to the district this year. That is the lowest reimbursement rate in the nation. And so that, along with some of the federal aids we get, you can see that rather large shortfall that all districts have to deal with in terms of transferring funds from Fund 10 to cover special education costs. Moving to expenditures, again, increased expenditures related to increased staffing. As our enrollment increases, we increase the number of staff members so that we can service our students. We also have increases in pay and salaries. We have increases in benefit costs, as I just presented, 10% increase in our renewal. So all that feeds into an increase in expenditures as well. Now, what is exciting is that we do have a balanced budget. That's what's being presented tonight. If you go back to 2021 and 2021-22, we had balanced budgets, but they did include funding from ESSER, one-time money from ESSER that actually was part of that balanced budget. Then we claimed those ESSER dollars and put them into fund balance to be able to tap into them. And we did in 2022-23 and 2023-24. We actually had deficit budgets that tapped into those funds to help maintain our current programming as we dealt with revenues that were lagging behind our expenditures because of inflation. So very excited to get to a point where we do have a balanced budget and we are not tapping into ESSER funds or money set aside to weather this storm. So what that looks like for 2024-25, what we'd be projecting is that our unassigned fund balance would remain at $4.9 million. That revenue stabilization fund, again, that would stay at $1.4 million. Our assigned fund balance would be spent down. That would be primarily the transfer to Fund 46 that the board set aside as assigned fund balance committed to a transfer to Fund 46. That was in last year's budget. We held off to put it, to actually execute this year to help increase state aid funding. And so that does get actually transferred. That's why that's the drawdown in the assigned fund balance. What would be remaining in the assigned fund balance would be the $106,000. That is the self-funding, health insurance self-funding reserve fund balance. So that $4.9 million would remain unchanged for unassigned ending fund balance. You do notice, though, that that ratio does decrease from 17.9 down to 17.1%. Again, that same dollar amount, when applied against increase in expenditures, is going to be a smaller percentage. So that ratio does decrease because of expenditure budgets going up over time. So moving on from the budget to the tax levy and the impact of that levy, we're going to look at these pieces of information to get to what our levy and our tax impact is going to be. So we have to start with the revenue limit, and the revenue limit generates 84% of Fund 10 revenue. It's driven by a couple of things, one being maximum revenue per member that we are allowed to raise. The last state budget increased that by $325 per year, and that was after the previous biennial budget, which froze it for 2 years. As you can see, it did not increase for 2 years, and now we're in the second year of a biennial budget, which increases it $325. Now, this lack of increase over time, not keeping up with inflation, is why you see so many districts going to operating referendums. That was the revenue limit per member was decoupled from inflation following the 2008-2009 school year. When you track what the CPI index would have had the revenue limit per pupil amount at versus where it is today, not being coupled to CPI, it's short by nearly $3,400. For us, that would be about $7 million in additional revenue if it hadn't been decoupled. This is why you see so many districts that are going to operating referendum. Just 2024 has a record number of operating referendums. 149 districts put an operating referendum either on the April ballot or on the upcoming November ballot. You'll also notice that the number of districts that rely on an operating referendum for 10% or more of their revenue limit has increased significantly since 2014. We're at 100 right now coming into 2024. And obviously, depending on how many of those 149 referendums either passed in April or do pass in November, we're expecting to see that number increase fairly significantly along with this trend, as that's a record number to go to an operating referendum in one particular year. Now, we are not in the situation of needing to go to operating referendum just to maintain programming. Reason for that, one big reason for that would be membership. That's the other piece of the revenue limit, in addition to how much you can raise per member or resident enrollee. You have how many kids you have. Our membership is going up significantly. 2024 has brought us 2,100 in terms of our membership number. That's replacing the 1,963 students from 2021. That's why you see our 3-year average significantly increase by 45 members. That actual increase above what we had been projecting resulted in an additional $181,000 in the revenue limit versus what we had been projecting, which is why, as you recall, we did pass a budget back in June that had a deficit. That's why we're on target to be on budget today. And obviously that membership strongly tracks our enrollment trends. You can see a significant increase in our enrollment this year. This is now the 4th year that we've had an enrollment increase. Now, this enrollment increase, a big part of it is in 9th grade. So we had been anticipating a fairly small ninth grade class. This was a very small group that had come up all the way from elementary through the middle school. And that group increased by 25 over what we had been projecting. And it's not due to more open enroll students than normal. We had a typical number of open enroll students. In fact, I don't believe we even filled our seats. This was primarily of families moving into the district with ninth graders. What's nice about that, it takes that ninth grade class, and instead of being a small class, makes it more of a typical class, similar size to the other classes. So as it moves through its high school career and into the upper grades where they'll be signing up for electives, that'll help keep the FTE at those elective courses fairly stable. So good news on that front. The other piece that goes into the revenue limit are private school vouchers. And as you recall, a couple years ago, the state significantly increased the dollar amount that went to private school vouchers per student. And so you can see that this year, we will be levying nearly $1 million to pay for the private school choice program. It doesn't affect our overall budget, where it's budget neutral in terms of where we land in having a balanced budget. But what this does do is it increases taxes. Basically, we're allowed to increase the property tax levy by nearly $1 million, and then that money flows through us, and we send that to the private schools to pay for that program. So, again, budget neutral, but it does impact the property taxpayer. So with all those factors and a few other minor ones, we do have an increase in our revenue limit trend, again, for 2 years running, similar to what you saw earlier with our overall revenues going up. $24.7 million, roughly, of our revenue limit. So we're going to have to determine how much of that $24.7 million is going to be funded through equalization aid and some other state aids received from the state, the rest being funded through property taxes. So our equalization aid goes up about $480,000 compared to last year. And this, if you had said this would happen a few years ago, that would have been very surprising. As you know, we set up our debt payments to fluctuate, doubling them up every other year with the idea that we would maximize state aid and then we would be protected every other year with a maximum loss of state aid of $1.6 million. This was going to be one of those years where we could have lost $1.6 million. Instead, we're actually increasing our state aid by $480,000, right? So there you can see the 2023-24, we are spending above the secondary cost ceiling or into tertiary spending by about $2,000 per kid. We lose aid because of that, and we are losing aid. But compared to where we were in the formula a few years ago, we are losing much less aid than we were when we set this plan in place. Just a few years ago, we would lose 40% of what we spent at the tertiary level. Now, we're only losing 22% of what we are spending at the tertiary level. And we're getting a much higher percentage increase in what we get for our spending at the secondary level, which is positively aided. So the reason for seeing this piece here with our property value per member decreasing compared to the state average is not because our property values are going down. They're going up, you'll see it later, just like everybody else around the state is. However, around the state, districts are challenged with declining enrollment, part of the reason so many have to go to an operating referendum. On the other hand, we are seeing significantly increasing enrollment. So when you think about other districts having their property values increase significantly while their enrollment declines, they're having their property value per kid go up significantly while our property values are going up, but so is our enrollment. So it's keeping that increase here in Grafton tempered, and certainly compared to the state average, dropping compared to the state average. So that helps us out in the formula. And so that results in about $11 million in state aid, equalization aid, and some other aids coming in that we can apply against that revenue limit of $24.7 million. That'll mean a tax levy authority within the revenue limit of $13.6 million. That gets allocated into Fund 10 at $13.1 million for operations of the school district. Fund 38, a little over $500,000 to pay our debt levy, or I shouldn't say our debt levy, our debt payments for debt within the revenue limit, and then a small levy into Fund 41 to keep that fund going and available for future potential uses. So within the, after the revenue limit tax levy, we do also levy taxes outside the revenue limit. In particular, a $5.6 million levy into Fund 39 to make payments for our referendum debt payments, to pay that off. You'll also see Fund 80 listed up there for $0. As you may recall, at our annual meeting last month, we did have a levy to fund a community-based SRO program that was approved by the electorate at that meeting last month. This would have allowed the addition of a second SRO and would have made the SROs available community-wide, including at the private schools. Subsequently, the Village of Grafton has informed the district that there will not be a second SRO for the 2024-25 school year. Now, without a community-based SRO program, we are no longer levying any funds into Fund 80 and will continue with our current single SRO serving the Grafton School District that's paid for using Fund 10.
So total, before you continue, this is new from our meeting last month. So I just have a statement that I would just like to read based upon where the district stance is on the SRO program. So as Topher has indicated, the adjustment of the second SRO from Fund 80 for the current school year budget of 24-25 is based on a decision made by the village that was communicated to the district via email on October 22nd that the village will be removing funding for the second SRO out of their budget. Earlier, at a meeting held October 1st, we were told that the village would be keeping the allocation for the second SRO in the budget, which would allow for an officer to start our 25-26 school year pending a successful negotiated agreement. To ensure alignment in our discussion during this meeting on October 1st, the village directly asked whether the district would be interested in adding a second SRO in the future. We clearly communicated that the district is indeed interested. Mr. Nelson, I would just like you to confirm that that is an accurate statement.
That is 100% accurate.
We believe a second SRO would enhance the safety and security of not only our students and staff, but also the community at large. The commitment is further evidenced by the district's funding for this program, which was approved in our budget last month. To be clear, if the village had not requested a funding change to the contract, we are confident that we would already have a second SRO in place today for the 24-25 school year, as an officer has already been interviewed and selected for this position. The ongoing challenge remains for the funding expectations. Often referenced is the 36% of total SRO costs that the district currently contributes, which is calculated by standard SRO funding models. Under our contract agreement, the school district and village each contribute 50% of the wages and benefits for the SRO's work when students are present. This agreement considers that the SRO spends 69% of the year in our schools, while the police department uses the SRO for village duties during school holidays, school breaks, and summer, which accounts for the remaining 31%. Thus, the district's annual SRO cost percentage comes to approximately 36%, though we cover 50% of the time the SRO serves in our schools. For context, the June 20th news graphic article referencing SRO agreements in nearby districts. One neighboring district funds 2 SROs, with the city covering 100% of the first SRO and the district 66% of the second SRO. This is an average of 33% per SRO. The other example is of a neighboring district that pays 35% for each of its SROs. and this is a district in which our formula is modeled after. Though there are various cost-sharing SRO agreements across the state, we believe that the neighboring communities are the most beneficial and important to be aligned with. We are thankful for the trustees that have voiced the need for a second SRO and see the value of them being in our schools, building relationships while keeping our students and staff safe. However, the village's revised agreement would increase the district's cost from 36% to 75%, leaving the village responsible for only 25%. Under this proposal, the Grafton School District would pay as much or more for a single SRO as neighboring districts pay for two, placing the responsibility for both education and security largely on the district. Again, we believe our agreement aligns fairly with those in neighboring communities. The district understands the reality of budget challenges, but we are surprised by the village's belief that the Grafton School District is being unfair and that there is reluctance or inability from the village to provide as much support as neighboring communities do with their school districts. With the decision made on October 21st to reallocate funds for this second SRO out of the 2025 village budget, we are hopeful that the village will reconsider so we can move forward and have an additional SRO in place to support our entire Grafton learning community. Any comments on our statement? Good. Okay. Please proceed.
Continuing on, so we have an all-fund tax levy of $19.3 million. This is an increase over last year. That $19.3 million is applied against our equalized property value. As I mentioned earlier, our property values are going up just like they are across the state and in other communities. So when you take that all-fund tax levy and apply it against equalized property values, you come to a mill rate or a tax rate per $1,000 of equalized value of $7.04. Obviously, a decrease from last year and the lowest mill rate that we've had since the beginning of the revenue limit era of school funding, which began back in 1993. So when you look at the decrease per $100,000 of equalized value, that's $38 per $100,000 of equalized value that goes down. If you take a $500,000, it's a decrease of $188. Now that doesn't mean someone who had a $500,000 house back in 2023-24 would have a decrease in their tax bill, the school portion of the tax bill, of $188 because their house is worth more. So we have to dig a little bit deeper to look at what that tax bill impact is going to be. So one factor we have to look at after we've sent our tax levy, our approved tax levy, to the municipalities is the school levy tax credit. Now last year, as you'll recall, there was a significant increase to the school levy tax credit. This particular bill saw that credit increase to $961, whereas the year before it had been $794. So even though we increased our levy, our overall school levy, by about $1 million last year, that school portion of the tax bill actually went down. And part of that was due to the school levy tax credit. So that's happening again this year, not to the same extent. Last year was a 27% increase in the state allocation into the school levy tax credit. This year it's going up about 7%. So to determine the impact of total school taxes levied, we take last year's all-fund tax levy of $18.7 million, subtract the school tax levy credit to determine last year's total school taxes levied were $14.7 million. This year we have an all-fund tax levy of $19.3 million. You subtract the $4,250,000 to come up with total school taxes levied of a little over $15 million. That's an increase of right around $300,000 or 2.1%. Basically, if considering that net new construction, so new properties, homes, expansions, remodels coming online are 2.1%, so that net new construction absorbs the entire increase in increase of school taxes levied. Basically, total school taxes levied, when you account for that net new construction of the 2.1%, will not increase more than the rate of inflation, which is one of our key performance indicators, and in fact, is going to result in an overall flat school portion of tax bills for existing properties. So we are looking, the school finance, the finance committee did put forth a recommendation to approve the budget and the tax levy as presented. So that's what we'll be looking for here tonight. Any questions on the budget or the tax levy?
Questions or comments?
Just a couple comments. Great to have a balanced budget after a few years of not having one, having a deficit. Also, just a point of clarification, when you're talking about Fund 39 and the debt levy, that was the 2017 referendum, just so people don't think.
That is correct, and now it's combined.
Combined,
Now we've
right.
got two referendums in there.
Yes.
Anything else?
And as we said, I'll point out, since you're bringing that up, we did say when we went to referendum that we'd be able to pass the referendum and not have taxes go up. And so that is truly the case.
Okay, so we have a two-part on this one. First, I would look for an approval recommending the final 24-25 budget as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Additional discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that passes. Second, approve recommending the certification of the 24-25 levy to the board.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes as well. So, Dover, Finance Committee, great job. Thank you. All right, E, personnel report.
Yes, we have one new hire that we'd be asking for board approval for, as well as some informational only pieces. We would ask for board approval for Carter Grant, special education teacher, John Long Middle School. This is an additional position that we've added since the beginning of the year, as we've had additional special ed students that moved into the district. And so this is an addition that we'd be asking board approval for. Informational only, the new hire of Serbi Sinha, special education aide at Kennedy Elementary School, and the resignations of Jenny Juder, office assistant at Kennedy Elementary School, and Cassie Kramer, special education aide at Woodview Elementary School.
Any questions? Any other positions that we're looking to have filled yet at this point?
So we, I know Dr. Gunderson pushed something through for the office assistant today. Jill has something that you're pushing through as well, for someone to start next week or this week. Yeah. Yep, so this week, to fill those positions for the resignations. And then there's another interview that we're doing at Kennedy for a long-term sub piece that we have. We're filling it right now, but we're looking long-term. I think that's it. Is that correct? Seeing principals and that, yes, that's correct. Yep, so we should be, the resignations that we have will be filled by the end of the week.
Great. All right. With that, I would look for an approval for the new hire of Carter Grant, special education teacher, John Long Middle School.
So moved.
Second.
Any additional discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes. We welcome Carter, we welcome Serbi, and then we thank Jenny and Cassie for their time here. All right, F, 24-25 first quarter budget report.
Yes, good news. In case anyone missed me, I'm back. So now that we have an approved budget, we'll take a look at how the budget is shaking out. So we're going to compare this year's fiscal year activity as a percentage of the overall budget that was spent in the first quarter compared to the activity that occurred in last year's first quarter as a percentage of the overall budget. And so you'll notice that the salary lines for both Fund 10 and Fund 27 are running a little hotter than last year, 13.9% versus 13.2%. in Fund 10, 9.7 versus 9.7 in Fund 27. And this is due to the fact that we actually have approved salary increases that are being paid out currently, partly in the first quarter, right? Whereas last year, we had it in the budget, but we hadn't had it actually approved and anyone earning those. So you're going to see the same thing occur for that second quarter budget report, where it's going to look like we will spend a bigger percentage of the budget, but the third quarter report will kind of even itself out, because last year we had quite a bit of back pay, retro pay that occurred in that third quarter. So then we have non-capital objects, and for both Fund 10 and Fund 27, it's the same thing. Last year at this time, we were reporting that the non-capital objects budget line was running hot relative to the prior year because we had made some textbook purchases early on. So now this year the opposite occurs. We're spending what appears to be somewhat below, and we are, because we don't have a big purchase at the beginning of the year like we did last year. And then finally, insurance and judgments. This just has to do with the timing of some of our insurance payments for workers' comp and property. So this will happen when we change carriers from year to year, and those the way they're structured, the payments are structured, that can change and sometimes bring more funding or more payments into different quarters. Overall, this is a budget that pretty much can be counted on. When we approve those renewals in June, then you pretty much have a final budget that gets inputted for the 700 line, insurance and judgments. So this is pretty much going to shake out and hit the budget. You just get some timing of invoices that can make it look like we're spending more than we did last year, which is actually true. So overall, the budget's shaping out well when comparing it to last year.
Any questions, information only? Thank you. Item G, employee benefits renewal.
Yes. So outside of health insurance, we do have dental, vision, life, long-term, and short-term disability insurance. And so we happen to be locked into these, so we have no changes in the rates for 2025. So dental, life, and long-term. So dental, we do share that cost with employees. We pay the majority of it at 87.4%. We cover the entire cost of life and long-term disability. Those rates are locked in through 2025, so 2026 would bring in changes. Short-term disability and vision are optional employee paid benefits that they can sign up for if they want to purchase short-term disability insurance or vision insurance. So that's no cost to the district. Short-term disability rates are the same this year as last year. That's locked in. And the vision rate is locked in through 2028. So just looking for approval to renew these benefits for the employees at the same rates as last year.
Any questions? All right, I would look for approval of the 2025 employee benefits as proposed.
So moved.
Second.
Additional discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes. Topher, last one.
Yes. Okay.
Short-term borrowing.
I promise. So just an update on short-term borrowing. Normally this time of year, we'd have information from the bank, loan packets for you to review about short-term borrowing to make sure we can make payroll when we often, in years past, had run out of funding to make payroll because most of our revenue comes in January in the form of property taxes, even though we're paying people all throughout beginning July 1 all the way through December. I will point out that we have not had to short-term borrow the past 2 years and are not projecting to need to short-term borrow this year. So we do not have that packet for you for review. We will not have the packet with all the flags in there for some of you to come into district office and sign this year. Now, certainly, we will monitor this each year and do a projection to see would we need to short-term borrow, and that would certainly be brought back to the full board if we needed to make the payroll. So just wanted to give you an update in case you were wondering why there wasn't a packet of loan papers from the bank to approve this year.
Informational only, any questions? Great, thank you. Enrollment updates, Amanda, third Friday count.
All right, third Friday count, as Topher had indicated in his report, we are seeing increasing enrollment for the fourth year here. It's interesting when you look back at the 2014, 2015 line, we're commensurate pretty much with about 10 years ago, similar enrollment when we had 5 buildings, but it's important to note through successful referendums, we've added square footage to our other buildings, so our footprint is actually commensurate with enrollment of about 10 years ago. So that is our third Friday count. And then a quick open enrollment update. As mentioned, due to increasing resident enrollment, we did open less open enrollment seats. So we opened 34. We filled 21 of those. And we are continuing to be net positive when you look at our open enrolls out, which are 98 students, and our open enroll in is at 163.
Both information only, any questions or comments? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. J, notification of Neola updates by superintendent.
Yes, per board policy, whenever we have, Neola does updates and they just have technical revisions, then the board has granted me the authority to make those changes, but I'm to inform you at the next board meeting. So these are technical changes that do not run through our policy committee, but are minor changes that are occurring to these policies that I have approved.
No update, no approval that we have to do on this. We thank you for going through and doing that work.
I know Mr. Kaler loves having a lot of policies.
And the policy committee. All right, Kay, gift reports, please.
Yes, we have a number of gift reports that we'd ask for the board's approval for, the majority of them from the Grafton Athletic Booster Club that are restricted gifts. One, Ben Brehan is going to be the contact person for all of these, so I won't read his name every time, but from the Grafton Athletic Booster Club, purchasing Huddle for the use of athletics for an amount of $2,500. Also for athletics for GHS girls basketball team, the team camp, returning player registration fee of $2,050. For the boys and girls tennis programs, the Booster Club is donating tennis court dryers / rollers and scorecard holders in the amount of $628.67. And for GHS girls soccer for team backpacks in the amount of $1,275. For GHS boys and girls swim teams sharing the touchpad, a new touchpad for them in the amount of $2,500. And finally, from the Booster Club for GHS footballs, football bags, and helmets in the amount of $7,445.13. And then from Meyer, contact person of Chi Yang, they are donating to Kennedy and Woodview Elementary Schools gift cards for off-school supplies and other student supplies in the amount of $1,000. So each of them will receive $500 in gift cards to be able to spend on school supplies or other student supplies to be able to give to our students. So we appreciate the Booster Club and the fundraising that they do, as well as Meyer partnering with our elementary schools.
Any comments or questions? I guess I'll just make the comment, I know that Ben will be stepping down after this school year, and he's been a big part of the success of the Booster Club, so we do thank him as well as everyone that participates with the Booster Club, as well as Meyer. So with that, is there a motion to accept the gift reports as presented?
So moved.
Additional discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes. We will send them a thank you for their support of our schools. So with that, we're adjournment. I remember all whole school board, so thank you for tonight. And with that, we will do a motion to adjourn and no closed session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? And it passes. Thank you.